3, 2, 1.
We've got an election, haven't we?
We'll start with the rehearsals.
Let's do that again, one more time.
You've got to be the best, but that is quite a lot of pressure.
It's just keeping up with everything.
You don't know what's going to happen day to day.
And being forcibly removed.
You've got to beat your journalistic competition. Every day matters.
That was a very tense interview, and I'm still slightly shaking.
You train hard and you fight easy, and I think that's what we're doing.
Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, our top stories. Donald Trump has been formally appointed as the Republican presidential nominee. He's chosen as his running mate the Senator J.D. Vance, who once compared the former president to Adolf Hitler. The security services are under the spotlight over what appears to have been glaring failures, which led to a gunman getting a clear shot of the former president at that rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. And Spanish search teams have found remains thought to be that of the missing British teenager Jay Slater on Tenerife. The 19-year-old vanished after attending a music festival on Sunday, the 16th of June. Well, let's speak to Tom Parmenter, who's in Tenerife for us tonight. Tom.
Well, yes, Jay Slater's parents are still on the island along with other friends, and they are processing the outcome that they had all feared, that the remains that the authorities here believe strongly are that of Jay Slater, that were found in this remote area, the northwestern corner of the island that the search had been focused on. His clothes and possessions were found as well, so everything points to that dreadful news for the family. His mum, Debbie, had, in the last day or so, talked about how they were bringing out a new search team from the Netherlands with specialist sniffer dogs, and they arrived just yesterday, and this discovery has come shortly afterwards. It is the outcome, of course, that did seem likely as the days went by in this search. Some 29 days this family have been searching for their 19-year-old, and it is the outcome that, of course, they had feared the most. We know, of course, that this is a case that's invited so much online commentary and conspiracy theorists, and that is something that the family have talked about in the last few days, about just how hurtful that has been for them, and it's how it's actually hindered the investigations out here on the island of Tenerife. The post-mortem will be conducted in the coming hours, and then they will have the definitive answers as to how Jay Slater, as we believe it is his body that was found, how indeed he died.
Tom, on Tenerife, thank you. Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with The Sun's chief political correspondent, Jack Elsom, and The Guardian's deputy political editor, Jessica Elgott. Welcome to both of you. So let's see what's on the front pages then. And the Financial Times highlighting the dismissal of the criminal case involving Trump's alleged hoarding of classified documents, a decision made by a judge who the former president himself appointed. Trump hits out at witch hunts despite pledge to unite the nation, is The Guardian's headline, focusing specifically on Mr. Trump's comments about the legal cases. The Telegraph says Mr. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, is a firebrand and a hillbilly senator. The Times carries YouGov polling carried out last week, which shows Donald Trump leads Joe Biden in all 7 battleground states and says that gap is expected to widen since the assassination attempt. Meanwhile, the Eye reports on Sir Keir Starmer's personal call to Donald Trump following the shooting incident, as the Prime Minister looks to build his own special relationship with the Republican presidential nominee. The Metro reports that authorities in Spain say a body believed to be that of the missing British teenager Jay Slater has been found. Front of the Express, picture of a helicopter they say was used to reach an inaccessible ravine where the body of Jay Slater is believed to have been discovered. The Sun questions why it took police so long to find Jay. The Daily Mail leads on the story that health leaders want doctors to warn patients about the dangers of climate change. And in The Star, the late comedian Ken Dodd's widow says she still talks to him every day. A reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers for yourself while you listen to our guests. So let's go to Jack and Jessica. Welcome to both of you. Why don't we kick off, Jessica, with The Times. Trump races ahead in key states after shooting. You know, this was predictable, I guess, wasn't it? You know, such attention, sympathy for him as well after what he endured.
Yes, and I think that this is a continuation of a pattern that we've seen, which has Donald Trump ahead in many of these states already. It has, you know, that he certainly looks now like the favourite to take the presidency back in November, and especially because of what we've seen also with the discontent around Joe Biden and his, you know, the state of his health, the concerns amongst Democrats there. So, you know, especially with the shooting of Trump and the response that's garnered from a lot of Republicans, you know, some of it quite, you know, would seem quite over the top in British politics about God protecting Trump and all the rest of it. You know, it's a difficult place for the Democrats to be in, for sure.
Yes, I mean, galvanising support, not least at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. He has been confirmed himself tonight, and he's announced his running mate, J.D. Vance. And suggestion is because he's ahead, that's possibly why he's gone for somebody who's relatively new to the Senate. You know, only in the last couple of years joining for Ohio.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you look at his base, you know, Trump is a political rock star, J.D. Vance similarly. Obviously, these swing states in which Trump is now ahead, according to the Times, places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Biden won 6 of these 7 swing states last time. The fact they are now seeming to be tilting for Trump shows that this race is really slipping through Joe Biden's fingers. What we know about these states as well is that they have very heavy white working class populations, the sort of populations that carried Trump to the presidency last time in 2016. J.D. Vance essentially is almost sort of a spokesman figurehead for these types of communities. He obviously wrote that book, He'll Be Elegy, which sort of rose into prominence a few years ago.
Made into a film, obviously.
Made into a film, exactly. And so I think that Trump is showing these people, I am on your side. I've picked one of your own, basically, and you can continue to back me going forward in November.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to the Financial Times, actually, which is the other big news today, is that the case that I went out to in Miami, actually, this idea that he hoarded state secrets at Mar-a-Lago in his Florida estate has been dropped because the special prosecutor, the Trump-appointed judge, decided had overstepped his legal powers, effectively, Jessica.
Yeah, and it's a great boost for Trump to have this, one of his 4 legal battles that he's been involved in, dismissed at this point. Coming at least 2 days after this assassination attempt, it's exactly what he'd hoped would bolster him, and you saw what how he responded to it coming after the assassination attempt. That he took that as the moment to say these witch hunts, as he's always called them, should stop against me. It's something he's always been prepared to blame on his political opponents.
Yes, that's how The Guardian, your paper, picks up on it. Trump hits out at witch hunts despite pledge to unite the nation. In fact, both leaders are already straying back, aren't they? Joe Biden saying that J.D. Vance is a clone of Trump in all forms. So already you start to see that unity message falling away and the temperature's beginning to rise again.
Yeah, and I think that after the assassination attempt, Trump had a lot of political capital and latitude to sort of come out and put his message across, because he was seen by especially a lot of his own base as a martyr. He originally was quite restrained, I think. He didn't sort of, cast aspersions at Biden and throw the finger around at Democrats for inciting this. He said that, we need to come together and unite as a nation. But he seems to have crowbarred this current case that he's fighting, into that message and saying that, we need to unite as a nation and therefore throw out all these cases against me. And so the fact that he's sort of trying to use this assassination potentially now as a sort of vehicle to try and, help his political campaign, I think it's going to be a sort of theme of things we're going to see going forward.
Well, the call has always been it's the weaponisation of the judiciary against me and the court system against me. In fact, for us in the UK, we look at the politicisation of the judiciary, this Trump-appointed judge who's pulled this case, and we sit there going, well, surely that makes it corruptible. I mean, it's something we're just not used to here.
Yeah, it's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? And I think that with the politicisation of the judiciary in particular feels very alien to us, as you were just saying, and that extends, of course, to the Supreme Court, and many of them nominees by Donald Trump, and have done things, like restricting access to abortion. That's the kind of, you can effectively stand to be a judge on by taking a position on something like that, and that's, it feels extraordinary to us.
There's stuff on both sides, though, isn't there? If you're a Democrat, you're going to see, what's her name, Aileen Cannon, the federal prosecutor in Florida. Oh, she's a Trump-appointed Republican, and therefore, she's incredibly biased. And if you're a Republican Trump supporter, you're going to see Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, as a Department of Justice stooge who was essentially going after Trump. So there are both sides, aren't there? And you can sort of take as you pick. But that is the problem, isn't it?
That's
with a politicised judiciary, exactly.
Yeah, you call for unity, but it's still divisive, is the point. And the Starmer and Trump start building their new special relationship. Interesting, the reaction after the appointment of J.D. Vance as running mate. We're told by our NBC colleagues that he was only told 20 minutes before it was announced by Trump. We'd heard Marco Rubio was not being picked a little earlier in the evening. They say it's the worst news possible for Ukraine. Better news for David Lammy, who's already got connections with...
Extraordinary system in the US in that no one can actually make Joe Biden go. No one can, we've seen a lot of British prime ministers go over the past few years here, and effectively people can, their cabinet, the whole cabinet can resign. They can't get enough MPs to be ministers. Graham Brady can make a quiet call and then they can go. But the only person that can decide whether Joe Biden goes is him. And I think that's what makes things very difficult. You can have the whole Democratic establishment calling for him to go, and he doesn't necessarily have to.
OK, Jessica, Jack, stay there. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including do authorities in Spain have questions to answer over why it took them so long to find Jay Slater? Back in a moment.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
It's turning everybody into, a crazy, violent drug addict.
How are you feeling?
I am angry.
It is an anti-woman agenda. 2 women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir? Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
I gotta be realistic. My sister's dead.
More than 4 weeks on, there's no murder weapon and no suspect. Are you going to catch this killer?
We are doing everything we can.
Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
We're so excited.
Severe nightmares of these people coming in and just taking me in the middle of the night.
I've watched as whole towns were torn apart by natural disaster.
I'm alive and I'm thankful for that, but there are a lot of people who aren't.
It's not the winds people fear most here, it's the water. We take you to the heart of the stories which shape our world. Do you truly believe what you're saying?
A lot of cases that I know are reported from Ukrainian missiles themselves.
Ambassador, with respect, I think that's preposterous.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Jack Elsom and Jessica Elgott. Welcome back to both of you. Now to the news that nobody wanted to hear. After nearly a month, it appears that a body has been found in the hunt for missing Jay Slater. The Metro leads with that. As you can see, a fall was the likely cause, quoting the police in Tenerife. The Sun asks, how did Jay cops miss his body, talking about his mother's agony. But we've seen the sort of terrain, ravine-like terrain, brutal conditions, certainly, that it appears the body was found in. We're waiting for formal identification, but really shocking conditions to search.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that area reasonably well. I went on holiday there a few years ago, and the northern part of Tenerife is stunningly beautiful, but parts of it look like the surface of the moon. There are these huge ravines, craters. The roads that you drive along are, kind of just like hairpin turns, real hairpin turns, and you can see it's very easy to get lost when you're hiking. And when I heard, that unfortunately the police hadn't managed to find him or search, it didn't surprise me at all, because it's so, you could easily fall into one of those cracks and plummet really far.
Yeah, it's obviously a horrible end, isn't it, to 4 weeks of this story, which has really dominated the press. And, one of the unfortunate things about a unsolved case like this is that it sort of develops into a sort of a murder mystery by social media, in which you get a lot of armchair detectives coming out with all sorts of conspiracies. Now, it looks like at the moment, actually, it was just an accident and he did just generally fall down. You know, it's incredibly unforgiving terrain. But the family today have come out and sort of said how hurtful all of these sort of internet conspiracies have been. And, you know, I think it's a lesson, isn't it? It's sort of the online sleuths that actually, you know, you don't know the whole story. And just because, you know, a body hasn't been found or something is unsolved doesn't mean that, you know, you have to jump to all sorts of conclusions. And so I think that's pretty a lesson in this one.
Yes, and you've certainly got a quote from a family source saying it's the news they've been dreading.
Yeah.
The mum has lots of answers. So
yeah.
We'll wait and see if she gets them all.
Yeah.
Let's go on to, Jessica, your paper. The UK faces a defence threat from a deadly quartet. Britain and its allies are facing a deadly quartet consisting of China, Russia, Iran and North Korea, as we're waiting to hear news of, you know, a proper defence review announced by the government.
Yeah, so this is from George Robertson, who's a former NATO Secretary-General. He says that the UK had to be prepared to take on all four if necessary. So, you know, Western concerns that these group of four, they're not just individual threats now. He's saying that they are a group that are working together, potentially sharing arms, potentially sharing components, and also military intelligence. And he says, you know, that they have to be able to confront that new reality of this alliance, potentially a sort of fragile alliance between these four.
And just before the weather, let's talk about the weather, shall we? Since Swithin's Day, which means the prediction is we're promised 40 days of, guess what, rain. Anyone who was out and about today knows that it was truly horrendous. Stithians, Cornwall, was among areas which got a soaking, as did Seaburn, Sunderland. There's the pictures. Never heard of Stithians myself, but there we are.
Do you know, I actually brought an umbrella today. I spent £10 on an umbrella in the middle of July at some shop in Westminster. And I just felt absolutely like appalled with the state of the rain at them. I felt physically angry and sort of like shaking with rage. The fact that I spent money on court umbrella.
Exactly.
Starmer's Britain is what it is.
Jack and Jessica, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you. More from both of you in the 11. Here is the weather. Well, it's looking unsettled this week, I'm afraid to say, although mainly dry on Wednesday. Hooray! But temperatures will be mostly around average. Wales and central England will have a wet start tomorrow, prolonged rain in the east. The far north looks murky and damp. Most other places will be fine, though. Just the odd shower in the south and northeast. Rain over central parts will largely clear across Lincolnshire and East Anglia through the morning, leaving central and eastern Britain with sunny spells and locally heavy showers, possibly torrential in the northeast. Western Britain, Northern Ireland and Ireland, meanwhile, look dry. Well, top stories coming up at Sky News at 11, getting the latest from the Republican National Convention, where tonight Donald Trump has been formally appointed as the presidential nominee and he's chosen J.D. Vance as his running mate.